All are requested to wait. We will start our session at the sharp time. Kindly mute your audio and video. All are requested to mute your microphone and camera. We will start our sharp time. Yes, ma'am. Please mute your all are welcome to the national webinar. We start the session at the sharp time. All are requested to mute their microphone and camera. Can you mute your microphone, camera? Nimi Misra, please stop your presentation. Nimi Misra, kindly stop your presentation. It will make interruption. Okay, thank you. Dear participants, all are requested to mute the microphone and camera. Mr. Shah Ahmed, please mute your camera. Dear participants, all are requested to mute their microphone and camera. Very good afternoon to all. All are welcome to the International Arabic webinar. Kindly mute your microphone and camera. We'll start our session at the sharp time. Our faculty, our resource person are ready here.
Good afternoon.
Our principal, beloved principal, and resource person are ready here. We'll start very soon. All are requested to mute their microphone and camera, and don't press on the presentation. It will interrupt you, the conduct of the webinar. Someone are presenting here. Siddhanna, you please stop your presentation.
I hope the chief guests are joined. I request them to please unmute their camera so that we can see them. Mr. Sharan Qasim and Professor Saina Askalan. If you don't mind, please unmute your camera so that we can use. Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
Fine.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Welcome to MES KVM College, Valancheri.
Dear participants, all are welcome to the International Arabic Webinar. A resource person, Zain Askala, and other dignitaries are already here. And first of all, I would like to welcome here with us Dr. Muhammad Riyaz, HOD of Arabic Department, MES KVM College, Valancheri. I would like to welcome you, sir, for the welcome, sir, please.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا إلى هذه القاعة الاحترامية. Very good afternoon Warm welcome to all of you to this international webinar. يسعدني حقا أن أرحب بكم جميعا إلى هذا المؤتمر الافتراضي الدولي الذي يتشرف بعقده قسم اللغة العربية التابعة لكلية إمنيس كيفيوم ولانشيري كيرلا الهند. وكليتنا تقوم بمختلف البرامج العلمية المفيدة للطلاب والباحثين والأكاديميين تحت رئاسة عميد الكلية الدكتور راجيش الذي يتميز بأفكاره اللطيفة وأنشطته الحيوية. وفي هذه الفترة فترة كوفيد لا بد أن أجري الأعمال عبر أونلاين. Dear respected audience, I know mix up the language for having participants with and without knowing Arabic. Dear audience, we are here to discuss very relevant topic, post-colonial Arabic literature, Palestinian literature as a model. You know well that the post-colonial literature is the absolute literary product of colonized countries of this world, especially of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This literature addresses various kinds of problems which the people of these countries are facing. This will disclose or symbolically the consequence of decolonization of a country, especially questions over the political and cultural independence formerly subjugated people. One of the best examples to identify colonial literature is Palestinian literature, which clearly depicts the living, grave, and endless consequence of Israeli occupation and world imperialism. And interestingly, we all stand with the people of Palestine who are struggling for their existence. Respected participants, we are honored to host two great scholars for this academic sitting, namely Professor Zain Askalan of Palestine and Mr. Shahran Qasim of Malaysia. I wholeheartedly welcome Mr. Shahran Qasim, Coordinator Academic Enhancement Program, IIIT, East and Southeast Asia Office, Malaysia, who will address us our community after inaugurating this international webinar. I warmly welcome on behalf of our institution, Professor Zain Askalan, Polytechnic University, Palestine, who will deliver keynote address on post-colonial Arabic literature, Palestinian literature as a model. I heartily welcome respected Dr. Rajesh Sar, Principal, MES College, who will preside over the session. I sincerely utilize this moment to welcome our respected Dr. P. Ali, Joint Secretary, College Management Committee, and Dr. Najila T.Y., Coordinator of IPAC. I welcome warmly my dear Dr. Muhammad Shafi, Assistant Professor, University of Kerala, who recently contributed a historical gift to the Indian Arabic literature by publishing the Arabic short story collection by an Indian, Al-Yom Tabassamat. Today she smiled. It was published from Egypt by Darul Publisher. She will moderate the technical session. After the keynote address, we will have an interesting interactive session of feedbacks, mainly by academicians representing different countries. Dr. Sayyid Nasrullah Bakhtiyar, the New College, India, Dr. Hasim Muhammad Ibrahim Matar, Alwan University, Cairo, Egypt, Fatima Achen, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey. and Abdullah Muhammad Nazir, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. I welcome all of them with full respect. I welcome Sonia and Mr. Adam, who will deliver vote of thanks. I am pleased to welcome all of the distinguished dignitaries, scholars, reporters, participants, and particularly my beloved students to this collaborative and interactive academic initiative. Once again, welcome to all, and I humbly request Dr. Rajesh sir to preside over this session. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Respected chief guest of today's international webinar, Mr. Shahran Qasim, who is the coordinator of Academic Enhancement Program, East and Southeast Asia Office of Malaysia. The keynote speaker, Professor Zain Askalan, lecturer, Polytechnic University, Palestine, and other dignitaries in the webinar. I'm very happy to know that the Department of Arabic at MES KVM College, Balanjeri, is organizing a webinar, an international webinar on the post-colonial Arabic literature with the Palestinian literature as a... And as we know, the European colonialism began in the 15th century when the Spanish and the Portuguese began exploring the Americas, the coast of Africa, the Middle East, India, East Asia. Later in the 17th century, the Britain conquered many of these countries and widened their colonies. The European invasion not only influenced the socio-economic conditions of the natives, but also their language and culture. English, French, German, and Spanish got predominance over the regional languages, and they used these as official languages. The literature in the regional languages, including Arabic, suffered setback during the colonial period. The post-colonial period actually witnessed a significant growth or improvement in the Arabic literature. The freedom from the European administration gave intellectual freedom also. Palestinian literature is one of the numerous Arabic literatures. Its affiliation is actually national rather than the territorial. Up to 1948 Arab-Israeli war, Palestinian literature was also territory bound. Since the Palestine Arab-Israeli war, the Palestine migration has taken place and the Palestine literature became a national literature, a literature written by Palestinians irrespective of their place of residence after their migration. So in the welcome address, Dr. Mohammad Riaz told us, this Palestinian Arabic literature has a lot of, is one of the prominent Arabic literatures in the post-colonial world. And we have eminent resource persons today to discuss the post-colonial Arabic literature with the Palestinian literature as a model. And we have got one of a young scholar, young academician, Professor Zaina Askalan, who is a lecturer of Polytechnic University of Palestine, as a resource person for today's international webinar. And we have got Mr. Shahran Qasim, who is inaugurating this international webinar. He is associated with the Academic Enhancement Program of East and Southeast Asia Office in Malaysia. And we are also having feedbacks or interaction from many eminent resource persons like Dr. Saeed Nusrullah Bakhtiyari, New College, Chennai, Hasim Muhammad Ibrahim Attar, Halwan University in Egypt, Fatma from Turkey, and Abdullah Muhammad Nazib from Bangladesh, and many others. And the technical session, of course, we have got Dr. Mohammad Shafi from University of Kerala as a moderator. And I think this webinar is a collection of eminent resource persons from all over the world. And I would like to congratulate the Department of Arabic and the head of the department, Dr. Mohammad Riaz, for taking pain and initiative to organize this kind of a webinar in a very good manner. And I wish all success for this program. Now I would like to invite Mr. Shahran Qasim for the inaugural address. Sir, please.
Thank you so much, our dear Principal, Tosi Rajesh. May I share my brief PowerPoint?
Yeah, sir, of course, you can.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Please proceed, sir.
Can you see it now? PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, all friends from MEST College. I feel so honored at the same time.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
And now the screen is not visible. Now your slide is not visible.
Oh,
now
no,
it is
no,
visible.
okay. How is it?
Not
Is it
now.
visible?
It was there. Now it is visible.
Okay. Oh, why?
Can you present it as slideshow or in the full screen?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, sorry. Okay, how is it?
No, it is gone now.
Gone, huh? Okay. It came and it
Now it is
went
okay. In this form, it is okay.
Okay. Very brief. I will not use all.
Okay, no problem, sir. You continue.
I can also talk without the slide. Thank you so much again, all friends. Indeed, it is such an honor. I'm so feel humbled to be invited to this very important webinar. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad Riaz, for inviting us. We have been in touch with Brother Muhammad Riaz in our classes. Our respected principal, Dr. C. Rajesh, and of course, our respected speaker for today, Prof. Zain Askalan. Palestine has been very close to our heart. We have been following everything that's happening from over there, affecting our dear brothers and sisters. And the topic today, post-colonial Arabic literature, is also very important. I will discuss one line about it in my short presentation. And other friends who are together with us in this beautiful day. Now in Malaysia is 4:45 p.m. So we are 2.5 hours different. I will not talk about the topic, but I will use the opportunity to just to touch 3 points. First about COVID-19, and then about this they call it lifelong learning, and then what we do at our office. As we know, the real impact of COVID-19 has been on people. A time of fear and uncertainty has been compounded by a totally new routine, where everyone must work from home. These are new phenomena that are affecting every one of us. So there's a new culture that transpired from this new environment, and where we are more consistently in touch with each other, and that it has become a time of connection. I will share with you what happened in our program. This is about COVID-19. And now we move quickly to about lifelong learning. This is in relation to what we are doing in the office. Lifelong learning, simply we can say the ongoing, voluntarily and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge. So there are many terms or many subtopics when we discuss about lifelong learning. We can say this all self-motivated. We can say this opportunity, this independent, and so on and so forth. So now with this new culture where we are access to Google Meet, to Zoom, to other platforms, lifelong learning has taken a new life, where everyone can learn, everyone can participate, regardless of your political belief, regardless of your economic status, regardless of your geographical location, as long as you have access to internet. So as long as you have access to internet, you can participate in this lifelong learning experience. So I jump quickly. These are the benefits of lifelong learning. Very normal. It nurtures our curious mind. It can build new skill. It can open our mind, improve our memory, and lastly, or maybe not the last one, create opportunities for a better job. So these are that I hope our college, our partners in India can take it seriously, how we can expand lifelong learning experience. So quickly to come to what we are doing, we are the International Institute of Islamic Thought. We are based in Washington, D.C., office in Herndon, Virginia, the suburb of Washington, D.C. And we have offices not all over the world. We have more than 20 offices in Jordan, in Egypt, Pakistan. In Malaysia, we are representing the part of East and Southeast Asia. Colonialization has been close to our heart because we are working on what they call integration of knowledge, or you can say Islamization of knowledge. And where we talk about secularization, dualism, and other terms relating knowledge and learning. And the term decolonization of knowledge has been used lately, where we understand that our knowledge has been colonized, of course, by our friend from UK, from France, and so on. India and Malaysia share the same experience. We are colonized by the British, so we are more on British side. So to make it simple, one of our efforts with this new opportunity that now we have Zoom, we have Google Meet and others, we have organized these online classes where we invite our senior scholars, senior, we call it in our office, senior fellows, so senior academic fellows. So we invited them to teach classes where they have been teaching this class in their own professional life for 15, 20 years. So these are some of the classes that we are offered. This is of Jamil, our senior executive director, teaching class on research methodology. And these are the classes that we offered for this session, August and September. I will provide the info to my dear brother, head of department. So to save time, Muhammad Riyaz has the info, you can contact him. So I think in conclusion, that's what I want to say. With this new environment, new setup, new culture of this COVID-19, and the opportunity to learn more by using this online platform, we can overcome this situation to our advantage. As the quotation here, with the right mindset, you can turn your weaknesses into your strength. So let us together work together to spread knowledge to all walk of people, regardless if for free or maybe small fees is our up to us. So in conclusion, I wish the success of this webinar. May this effort benefit to all of us. I congratulate Dr. Muhammad Riyaz, our principal, Dr. Rajesh, and the whole colleague from MES Tivian College. The webinars or in other activities. Then when these things are over, share with us. We can exchange ideas. Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad Riyaz and the rest. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Actually, as you said, this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic situation has created a lot of problems in the world. But in the educational sector, I think, as you mentioned, it has created an opportunity for spreading of knowledge and gaining of knowledge. irrespective of the country where we belong. So thank you for your good words and for inaugurating this webinar. Now, before I go on to Professor Zain Askalan, I request all the participants to mute their microphone and camera so that we can minimize the disturbance here. All the participants are requested to mute their camera and microphone, please. Now, may I request Professor Zain Askalan to speak a few words before the technical session. Actually, she will be delivering the keynote address in the technical session. Now, I invite Professor Zain Askalan to speak a few words. Ma'am, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank the University of Kerala for giving me this opportunity to speak and to transfer the Palestinian image within post-colonialism here today. So thank you so much for this. Pleasure for me. Today I'm going to talk about post-colonialism within the Palestinian context. So first of all, let me share the screen. Just a second, I just want to make sure that I can present it.
Actually, ma'am, are you going to present now or in the technical session?
Okay, so maybe if you want me to present,
deliver a few words about the program. The presentation, okay. You can have the presentation in the technical session, ma'am.
Okay, it's fine. So once again, I'm thankful to this university for giving me this opportunity to present today and being part of this webinar. And this is a great pleasure for me to show and talk about the Palestinian image and the Palestinian experience within post-colonialism. We all know that the theoretical part of post-colonialism is very wide, and it includes so many literary production and writings. But when we highlight the Palestinian experience, it is a bit different, because for like recently the post-colonial production was a bit silent in Palestine, because we can face the counterpart, we can face the counter narrative from the Israeli struggle. So the whole attention is paid to the Israeli narrative, not to the Palestinian, or let's say it gained more attention than the Palestinian one. So that's why it is important to always tell and talk about this experience, and to highlight it, and to highlight the writers, and to talk about their how they presented post-colonialism, and what is the reaction and response to post-colonialism in their writing, how Palestine is there in their writing. So that's why I felt like fully encouraged to talk about it today. And when we refer to this experience also, we talk about different spaces. It's more than stealing a land, it's also about building apartheid walls, it's about demolishing houses, it's about refugees, it's about intifada, the first, the second, and the third. It's about wars. So this is actually worthy attention, and it is important to talk about this, because we need that the whole world know about our presence and about our situation. And I think if we talk about Arabic literature within post-colonialism, let's say one of the literature here is the Palestinian literature. I will give more information. I will speak more and more. I will clarify more in my coming session, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Zain Askalan. We are expecting more in your technical session. Now, may I request Dr. Mohammad Ali P, Joint Secretary of College Management Committee, for a few words of felicitation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. President of today's international webinar, Dr. Rajesh, the dynamic principal of MES KVM College, Balancheri. IQAC coordinator, Dr. Najla, Dr. Mohammad Riaz, HOD of Arabic and the coordinator of the program. Most revered resource person, Madam Professor Zain Askalan from Palestine, Mr. Shahran Kazim from Malaysia, distinguished delegates, faculty, students, and research scholars, a very good afternoon to you all. On behalf of the College Management Committee and MES, IQAC coordinator and the department head of Arabic, students and staff for organizing this international webinar on the topic post-colonial Arabic literature. The post-colonial literature emerged from the decolonized people, reflects and the cultural resistance and even the celebrations of the locals in a decolonized society. The post-colonial literature acts as a spokesperson of the colonized, oppressed generation. I'm sure Madam Zain Askalani, in her talk, will reflect the feelings of the post-colonial era. Already in his address, Mr. Shahran Kasim explained about the importance of lifelong learning and acquiring the 21st century skills to face the challenges of the 21st century. In this context, I would like to say a few remarks about the contributions of Arabs to the world. It is important to cherish the contributions of Arabs from the 7th century to 15th century AD for the development of human civilization. Amazing. They explored and exploited the potentialities of the objects which had remained unknown. They gave serious thought of every subject and made most important discoveries in chemistry, astronomy, mathematics, and medicine. They specialized history and geography. They unearthed alchemy and algebra. They initiated and developed the study of political economy and sociology. They made commendable research in zoology, geology, and botany. This fact was openly acknowledged by European scientists and scholars. Thus, the Arab Middle East was brimming with knowledge, culture, and prosperity during the medieval times, when Europe was in a dark continent. It is part of the history that the Renaissance of Europe started in the late medieval period by the transmission of knowledge from Arabs to Europe through Spain. Hope that the deliberations and discourse will throw light how the colonials had prompted the post-colonial Arabic literature. I wish once again good luck to the organizers, all the participants, and especially to Madam and Mr. Shahran Kasim. With these few words, I wish good luck to all of you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite Dr. T.Y. Najla, Coordinator of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, MES KVM College, Valancheri, to speak a few words.
Good afternoon. respected principals, Dr. C. Rajesh, revered guest today, Dr. Zain, our former principal and principal of Majlis College, Dr. Mohammed Ali sir, participants and faculty from various colleges. The topic today is post-colonial Arabic literature and Arab literature, Palestinian literature as a model. Literature is a very pertinent topic. And as studying literature in India, as part of being a colonized country in erstwhile history, we know that India was colonized, a large part of the world was colonized, and we find that in history shows unequal relationships between the West and countries in Asia, Africa, and mostly in Eastern. And what is unequal? The relationship is unequal. It's a relationship of power. And post-colonial theorists are interested in what happens to these countries before and after colonization. And when I think about today's topic, we here in India especially are less familiar with the thought process and with
I think there is some issue with the network of Dr. Najila TY. Sorry for the inconvenience. Professor Sumaya Tarail, Assistant Professor, Department of Arabic, to express the vote of thanks.
Good day to all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is my privilege to deliver the word of thanks. I wish to our appreciation on behalf of the Arabic Department of VM College, Mr. Shahran Qasim, Coordinator, Academic Enhancement Program, IIT, Eastern Southeast Asia Office, Malaysia, for delivering a truly inspiring, informative, and memorable inaugural address. I would like to thank Dr. Muhammad Riyad, Head of the Arabic Department, for welcoming the entire team to the esteemed program. I would say he is the master brain behind this endeavor. Next, I express my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the department of our beloved principal, Dr. C. Rajesh, for supporting and providing effective guidance and teaching support. I use this opportunity to thank Professor Zain Askalan for delivering the address to this webinar and thought-provoking. I would also like to take this opportunity to express Dr. Muhammad Ali and Dr. Najila TY and Sir, love to all distinguished speakers who have gathered here from different parts of the world. And finally, I thank everyone who logged in on time to attend the webinar. I'm sure that coming deliberations will generate fresh ideas, insights. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
So with this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. Now it is over to Dr. Mohammad Riaz for the technical session.
Thank you, sir. Let us move to technical session. May I invite Dr. Muhammad Shafi with this technical session. هيا ندخل إلى الجلسة التقنية الأكاديمية. أحب أن أدعو الدكتور محمد الشافي الوافي لإدارة هذه الجلسة المباركة، فليتفضل مشكورا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good afternoon to all. Firstly, I express my hearty gratitude to my friend, Dr. Riyal, who has been looking always to move forward to expose the Department of Arabic, MES KVM College, under the guidance and leadership of Dr. Rajesh, Principal. I am pleased to be part of this webinar on the particular topic, an interesting topic, post-colonial Arabic literature, Palestinian literature as a model. Dear, I express hearty gratitude to Professor Zain Askalan. I firmly believe she is one of the best resource person to have a debate on this particular topic, post-colonial Arabic literature, Palestinian literature as a model, as she is specialized in post-colonial literature, representing Polytechnic University, Palestine. It is our pleasure to have these kinds of great scholars in this webinar, and I welcome all of these dignitaries to this technical session. Dear audience, post-colonial literature is the literature which reflects the pains, sufferings, and concerns of colonized society and communities. Whenever we think about post-colonial literature, a number of names, literary figures come to our mind, particularly literary figures of Asian, African, and Latin American countries. I remember here Ngungiwa Thiong'o, great literary figure of Kenya, who has interestingly written down very good book, Decolonizing the Mind. He expressed a number of ideas regarding post-colonial society, and he identified decolonizing the mind of colonized society is not at all, but it is a great task. Here, I may remark the book of Indian scholar Ashish Nandi. He has written a great work. Even from the name or title, we will get fascinated. That is The Intimate Enemy. He has expressed a number of concerns over post-colonial world and the cultural imperialism. Though the term post-colonial literature got introduced in late 1980s, but the literature was, but the post-colonial Arabic literature and post-colonial literature has a long heritage. Here, I may notice post-colonial Arabic literature, where we notice the great work of Tayyib Saleh, موسم الهجرة إلى الشمال. فإذا تحدثنا حول هذا العمل لابد أن نتحدث كثيرا، لأنه في هذا العمل تناول كيف نعالج القضايا الاستعمارية وكيف ننتقم من المستعمرين. He has expressed clearly how we have to react colonial powers, and how we have to revenge their actions in a particular manner in this book, موسم الهجرة إلى الشمال. There are another book, you know well about the great poet, Palestinian poet, Mahmoud Darwish. Professor Zain Askalan may be focusing on his contribution to post-colonial literature. So I may not speak more about that. Here we are coming to Palestinian literature. We find out a number of literary figures, including Ibrahim Jabra, Sahra Khalifa, and particularly Wassan Kanafani. Wassan Kanafani, he even introduced the term resistant literature to the literary world. Russian literature when he published his great work أدب المقاومة تحت فلسطين المحتلة. His books got translated into various languages. They include رجال في الشمس, The Man in Sun, Saad, Mother of Saad, عائد إلى حيفا, a return to Haifa. And when we come to or scrutinize his literary work, a great work, namely في الأدب الصهيوني, in the Zionist literature. This is wonderful work. He just analyzed it methodologically how the Israeli imperialism established, particularly the Israeli state. Anyway, I don't prolong. I may talk about post-colonialist critic Edward Said. He introduced the term cultural imperialism, or he frankly exposed and disclosed the different methodologies applied by the colonialist powers, where he dealt with cultural imperialism. That is an interesting aspect of topic. Anyway, it is an interesting session to have these kinds of scholars, particularly Professor Zain Askalan. She has specialized in this particular area, really impressing. And I welcome Professor Zain Askalan to deliver keynote address on our title, Post-Colonial Arabic Literature.
Palestinian Collective Memory, and here I'm going to take Mahmoud Darwish as a model or as an example. So I will see how he wrote about, I will show you how he wrote about, how he embodies the Palestinian memory, Palestinian collective memory within his writings. So الذاكرة الفلسطينية الجمعية كما في شعر محمود درويش. And also I will look at a novelist. It's not only poetry, and also I want to look at short stories. So here I chose the resistance literature, which Dr. Muhammad also talked about. Here my example is Ghassan Kanafani. I will talk about two main short stories by Kanafani. So أدب المقاومة كما في روايات غسان كنفاني. First thing is post-colonialism in the Palestinian context, which is very important as it is prominent when we talk about post-colonialism in the Arabic literature in general. Post-colonialism has recently been silent on Palestine. And as I said before, here we have the counter narrative, which is the Israeli narrative, which is dominating a large part of the world's literature. So it is important to work on our literature so as to show the right, show the ownership of the land. So post-colonial has recently been silent on Palestine. And this theoretical silence on Palestine, of course, was preceded by historical, political, social.
Can you make, Madam, sorry, Madam, can you make your presentation in full screen model? Slide?
Sure.
Full screen. Okay, thank you.
Now, is it okay?
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. The theoretical silence on the Palestinian part, it was preceded by historical, cultural, political, geographical, and social contestation. Now, the contestation of all forms of Palestinian spaces, including not only stealing Palestinian lands, but also building apartheid walls, destroying, demolishing houses, olive trees, properties of people, and also kidnapping the traditional life of Palestine and taking the, let's say, stealing the details of everyday life in Palestine. So these contested spaces necessarily become sites of Palestinian cultural production, struggle, steadfastness, and also they become the topic of writers' writings or production, literary production. So also here, if you want to talk about the Palestinian context, Palestine went through different stages of colonialism. So we started from the British Mandate in 1920, which allows and opens the gate for the Jewish immigration into Palestine. And so then we have the Israeli occupation. Then we have the catastrophe, the Nakba, that is in 1948. And then we went through different wars, like in 1956, in 1982 in Beirut, the siege of Beirut, where Palestinians were fighting in Beirut against Israel. And also we have the first Intifada in 1987, we have the second Intifada in 2000, and also we have the third one. And this is actually an experience which is reflected in the writings of Palestinian literature. So the colonialism experience formed different parts of literature. So we have, for example, the Palestinian memory represented in literature, the identity, we have resistance literature, we have different parts of Palestinian literature. Now, if in post-colonialism, critics like Edward Said called Arab poets and novelists to write about the problems of colonization and also to search for the lost identity. So, for example, if they are refugees, they have to look for their identity and, let's say, return their original identity, even if they are in exile. And also the identity of the nation as a whole. So, part of these writers are Mahmoud Darwish and Ghassan Kanafani. Also, we have writers. So Darwish, for example, writes about resistance, writes about Palestinian personal and collective memory, and how people behave and colonizers. And also he introduces his country as in exile. So it's not only about homeland, but he believes that as even in exile, as a refugee, you can build your own home, you can hold your memories, and from your memories, you can create your own presence and existence. Also, if you look at Kanafani, Kanafani wrote about the struggle under occupation. He wrote about resistance, mainly about resistance. He describes the feelings of children in refugee camps and how they resist. So here, because of this, I'm going to talk about two examples, Mahmoud Darwish and Ghassan Kanafani. So here, as for Mahmoud Darwish, he's a pioneer Palestinian poet who was born in 1941 in Al-Berwa village. It is in the northern part of Palestine, in the Palestinian Galilee, and he wrote about collective memory. Actually, if you look at the writings of Mahmoud Darwish, he wrote in two main stages. Let's say the stage that starts from 1960 until 1992, and the second stage that is from 1993 until 2008, until his death. Now, I chose today to talk only about the first stage because of the time allocated to me here. So there is a difference, but it is important to highlight the difference between the two stages. Now, 19 local point in the life of Palestinians. In 1993, there was Oslo Agreement was signed between the Palestinian and the Israeli side. Of this agreement, we have the two-state solution, and we have, and it is said that we have to recognize Palestine only on the lands of 1948. which means the occupied territories that were taken in upon the Nakba in 1984 were lost forever, and they are demolished from the Palestinian memory. In the first stage, Mahmoud Darwish talked about tangible symbols. He used tangible symbols to represent the love and the ownership of his land. But if we refer to his writings after 1993, where the right of return is by the whole world, so he starts to use intangible symbols to represent the memory of Palestinians, which means as if he's telling people, okay, you built your own country in your exile, and you hold on your name, and you have your dreams, you have your memories, and these are intangible symbols, of course. Oslo Agreement was a breaking part in the life of Palestinians. No more right for refugees. The right of return is totally denied. But at the first stage, he still had the hope in his writings to come back, to go back to his beloved land. So the first part is about collective memory, but is about personal and individual, let's call it individual memory. So everyone has his own individual memory, and out of this memory, he can create his homeland. Now, let's refer to the collective memory and talk about it. So the collective memory for Mahmoud Darwish, it's important to understand the meaning of collective memory. When we talk about collective memory, we talk about the existence of the whole society and how they share the concepts of their memory and their identity. So it is important to create a collective memory within the existence of the society and to form their identity, to form the identity of the whole nation. And we can refer also to the events and experienced in the past, and they mean the same for all people in this nation. So this is what is called a collective. So this collective memory also is constructed by the present consciousness and understanding of the past events. So here, let's see how Mahmoud Darwish represents this collective memory. For this purpose, I used a methodology for this study. I used the conceptual framework that is dual store memory. It is taken from memory studies. It was developed in 1968. This framework or this model talks about different stages, how we have memory, and the long-term memory or the presence of long-term memory is a main condition and the most important part of having collective memory. You cannot have, we cannot call it collective memory if it is not saved for a long time or for the lifetime. So here, according to this model, it says that usually information that goes into the memory starts from stimulus input, which means like pictures, events, and so on. And then it moves it through the sensory registers. So we start to understand them, recognize these pictures and information and experience and events. And then we have recoding process. Recoding, which means here we start to have meanings for these concepts. We have concepts out of the experience. And then the information moves to or reach the short-term memory. In the short-term memory, here lies the core of my claim or my study. In the short-term memory, there should be rehearsal for the information. Now, if the information is rehearsed there, which means repetition, then we can move them. They immediately move to the long-term memory there for a long time or for the lifetime. But if there is no rehearsal, it means they will stay there in the short-term memory and they will be saved for like a short period of time, or maybe they will be lost after a while. So after being in the short-term memory, there is another recording process, another new concept, and then we move to the long-term memory. And of course, rehearsal is very important. If we want to apply this on the poetry of Mahmoud Darwish, let's see what we have. The main event was the war of 1948, which is the catastrophe or the Nakba. So from the Nakba, this is our first focal point and first experience. We have, after that, we have displaced Palestinians, we have refugees, we have the land, and we have Palestinian camps. And then that are refugees, we have the defeat, we have the Nakba as a concept in the Palestinian literature and even in the Palestinian experience. Short-term memory, see how our memory moves. There is rehearsal. Why there is rehearsal or how there is rehearsal? We have massacres. We have 1956 wars. We have 1967, 1970, 1982, and also we have the first Intifada in 1987, which means the rehearsal is very excessive. So the information moves to the long-term memory where it is for a long time or lifetime. What's the production of this? What's the result out of this? It is national poetry, and we have the use of tangible symbols. National poetry, everybody understands the significance of the olive tree, for example. It means the same for me and the other Palestinians. So here is how we apply it on the Palestinian memory. Now, how does Mahmoud Darwish apply this? He, as I told you, he used tangible symbols. So, for example, one of the prominent and dominating symbols in his writings is the father's image. So, the father's image in so many places of his writing means steadfastness. Sometimes it is the history, it is the heritage. He created dialogue between a father and the son, and sometimes the father is hope, and also he is the Palestinian original farmer who lives his simple life. I just quote him. So let me impress my father in the mirage. For every mirage is my father, and every absence is my father. So my father is existence, my father is absence, my father is my exile, but father is my identity. Now, also the mother's image is very important for Mahmoud Darwish. So the mother is shelter and safety, and that's why he wrote the great poem to my mother, Laumi. Childhood memories, immortality and sacredness. So, mother as immortal human, sacred human. The mother for him is homeland, and the mother signifies the return of refugees. In one of his poems, he talked about the mother as waiting for the refugees at the step of the door, at the front step of the door. She's waiting for the refugees. She's waiting for her sons to come back from exile. So, which means she is the hope of return. Also, he used the symbol coffee. And in 1982, he wrote the book Memory for Forgetfulness, in which he talked about the siege of Beirut in 1982. So he said, I want the aroma of coffee. I want nothing more than the aroma of coffee. Of course, here he's talking about his daily routine. He used to wake up and make coffee in the morning. Now everything is demolished. Now everything is... So, and I want nothing more than the passing days than the aroma of coffee. So all what I need to have is my coffee. All what I need to have is my existence here. They even destroyed everything, even my coffee, even the thing that I have here in Beirut, in exile. So coffee for him is resistance. He wants to resist and go back to his normal life and make coffee. Typical Palestinian simple life, because we all know that, or maybe Palestinians know, that coffee has like, let's say, special traditions, especially in the morning, and the way we as farmers here do it, using their primitive life. Also, it means the geography, it means nostalgia to Palestine. It is the thing that existence in exile. Also, it means the ownership of the land. He uses so many other tangible symbols, like, so the tent was also there. So he says, as you go home, your own home, think of others. Don't forget those who live in tents. Don't forget the refugees. the refugees issue is there, should be there for the whole world and should be remembered by everyone. So he just wants to, and of course in other places, it is the stop of exile, a stop for the next exile. So we move from exile to exile because we know that Palestinians started to be refugees, and then they were given the name of displaced people upon the war of 1967. So again, more refugees, more and more displaced Palestinians. And also, it is irony of the decisions made by the Arab countries in some other places. It is also the collective identity in the new place because all refugees lived in camps. So they share the tent, and the tent becomes our collective identity in exile. It becomes our presence in exile. We are marked by the tent. We are marked by the suffering living there. So also it is the memory of the homeland, So let me choose the hobbo. Hobbo, the hobbo is bird, and this bird, unlike other birds, the hobbo, if he travels, if he moves from his place, he doesn't come back to his first. Okay, so the hobbo also was the stage between return and exile. So the hobbo for him is the guide of Palestinians in their exile. And we all know that the Quran reference for the hobbo, he was the one who tells the news to Prophet Sulaiman. And here he chose the hobbo because of this. So he is the guide for Palestinians in their exile. He is telling them what's in their hearts. He's telling them about the love to their homeland and about their new identity and how they behave in exile. And also, the hobbo is connected with the Sufi teachings. Now, in the Sufi teachings, we know that they believe in the unity with heaven. So it's like they just breathe their presence in so many ways. So the hobbo is connected to that, which means if you want to live if you want to go back to your homeland, it's fine, but be united with your exile in the meantime, and in your memory you can go back. So you are now hanging in between return and exile. So your love to your land takes you back to your homeland. At the same time, your dreams takes you away, or maybe your exile, let's say, your real exile takes you away from your hand. So you are hanging in between. But live as the hobbo, even if he doesn't know the way back, his own and a new identity. Okay, so here one quotation. The answer is the road, and the road is nothing but vanishing into fog. So you are almost missing your road. You are continuing in exile, but still you are Palestinians. Now we have so many other symbols, of course. Now I want to talk about Ghassan Kanafani. He was born in 1936, and then he was assassinated in Lebanon in 1972 upon the airport installation at that time. Now, here I want just to add just two short stories by Ghassan Kanafani. The first one is A Return to Haifa. And here we're talking about resistance literature. Usually the concept of resistance literature is connected with. So he used resistance symbols. So one of the prominent symbols here is the sea. What does the sea mean? Of course, when we talk about we know that Ghassan Kanafani created in his imagination his protagonist Saeed, and then he let him go back to his original house in Haifa with his wife Safiya, and he behaved as if he knows this place because he was displaced. He was born in this house with his brother Khaldun, and then he was displaced to Lebanon. Of course, he couldn't go back. Yani, Ghassan Kanafani couldn't go back, so he created his own protagonist to go back and to represent him. So one of the symbols here is the sea, and the sea for him is the first home. And I chose to put it in Arabic because it's much more meaningful when it is translated than when it is translated. So وفجأة جاء صوت البحر تماما كما كان. كلا لم تعد إليه الذاكرة شيئا فشيئا بل انهالت في داخل رأسه, which means this is the Palestinian memory. This is the first home. He knows every single thing in that home. When he just looked at the sea. And also it means the exile and homeland in one place. So here, for example, he represents the sea as حيث كان البحر الذي ظل بعيدا أكثر من 20 سنة يهدر على القرب. So it is far away. At the same time, it is very close to him because he's Palestinian, and the sea says, you are Palestinian, you are the owner of me. It's not the Israeli citizen. And at the same time, it is the exile because he was displaced for more than 20 years. The brother Dennis Said, which is actually Ghassan Kanafani, he was displaced for more than 20 years. So now he's back and his memories. At the same time, it is shelter. إنه ما يزال يذكر كيف أنه كان يتجه نحو البحر وكأنه محمولا وسط الزحام الباكي المذهول. So it is his shelter where he can refer to, he can go to empty his sorrow, to talk about his problems. So this is his shelter. So usually the sea is connected with lack of safety because it is a sea at the end. So it is for Palestinians, the sea is their shelter because it is connected with the homeland. Also, it is the memory of the place. So كانت غرفة الجلوس على حالها كأنه تركها ذلك الصباح. نفس الرائحة التي كانت لها رائحة البحر. So the smell of the house, the smell of the land, the smell of the existence is the sea. So it is the memory of the place. The place is still having the smell of the sea, which means, and the place is the memory of Palestinians. Also, he refers to the name sometimes means the loss, and the Palestinian loss is very big. كشف على التو أن ذلك الاسم لم يلفظ في تلك الغرفة منذ زمن طويل، وأنهما في المرات القليلة التي تحدثا عنه كانا يقولان هو. So they referred to his brother Khaldun. Khaldun was left there actually upon the 1948. They left his baby brother Khaldun. They forget him at home. So he referred there, and it seems that Khaldun was raised up by Israeli parents, and they claim that this is their son. So usually here he imagines that these people cannot even say the name of Khaldun because to him as Hua, which means he, so as if his brother is absent, and it means the loss of Palestinians, the absence of Palestinians. And also it is the right and the ownership of the land. So he was telling his wife Safiya, غيروا الجرس ثم تابع والاسم طبعا. So when he referred to his house, he couldn't find his name on the doorbell. So, and the name is removed also from there. So the right and the ownership of the land, his right is taken away, and he can just express that through talking about the name. Of course, we have much more here, much more things. To Saad. Saad was a Palestinian woman who lived in the refugee camps, and she is a very old woman, which means she experienced the different wars of Palestine. She experienced the Nakba, and she had sons. One of them was a martyr, and the other one was a fighter, resistance fighter. So Saad for Kanafani was power and steadfastness. Here in his writing, مثل دقات الساعة جاءت هذه المرأة تجيء تماما تصعد من قلب الأرض وكأنها ترتقي سلما لا نهاية له, as if she is in the land. She's coming out of the bottom of the Palestinian land. She is the Palestinian shelter. She is the Palestinian tree. She is the Palestinian steadfastness. So that's how he described her. Also, she is the Palestinian rural life, because we know the primitive rural life for Palestinians was that they used to work as farmers. They used to be have primitive like. So here he says, ودخلت أم سعد تفوحت في الغرفة رائحة الريف, which is the smell of rural area, the smell of rural life, which means she is the real mother. She is the symbol life. She brings us back to Palestine. And also she is the war eyewitness because of her experience. أم سعد المرأة التي عاشت مع أهلي في العباسية سنوات لا يحصيها العدد والتي عاشت بعد في مخيمات التمزق سنوات لا قبل لا أحد يحملها على كتفيه, which means he's talking about her experience. She used to live with his family, with Kanafani's family. She lived with them for long years in exile, and then she moved to another exile. She lived in Palestinian refugee camps. So this is her experience. So as if she is the war eyewitness. And also she represents the Palestinian refugees. And yeah. So she also represents the homeland, the Palestinian mother. And how the way he describes her here is that he's saying لقد جاءت مثلما تنفجر الأرض بالنبع مثل أول الأبد مثلما يستل السيف من غمده الصامت عمري كله لم أرى كيف يبكي الإنسان مثلما بكت أم سعد تفجر البكاء من مسام جلدها كله أخذت كفاها اليابستان تنشجان بصوت مسموع كان شعرها يقطر دموعا شفتاها عنقها مزق ثوبها المنهك جبهتها العالية الشامة المعلقة على ذقنها كالراية ولكن ليس عينيها. So everything cries from Sa'd. Everything, she cries from everywhere, but never her eyes. She's like the Palestinian mother. She never says, I'm tired. She always gives. She always, her sons are martyrs. Her sons are prisoners. Her sons are fighters against the occupation. So Sa'd was a symbol of, or is a symbol of Palestinian mother and died for the way back from exile. لست أدري لماذا مضيت بالتوه إلى المخيم وفي مستنقع الوحل شهدت أم سعد واقفة مثل شارة الضوء في بحر لا نهاية له من الظلام. And the بحر that he's talking about here is the endless exile. We're moving from one exile to another. But Sa'd is there as if she is a tower, telling them about their way. She is the compass for refugees, telling them, come back, I know the way. I'm gonna guide you to the way back. And also he used the olive and the grapes. Because of the time, I want to skip this part. And here I want to conclude with a quotation by Mahmoud Darwish. I do not decide to represent anything except myself, but that self is full of collective memory. Thank you so much for your consideration, time, and giving me this opportunity to be part of this webinar.
Thank you very much, Madam. I don't know how I have to present the gratitude, express gratitude for your interesting, impressive, and informative presentation. You presented methodologically, and it is enough to convince the people how Palestinian literature deal with post-colonial areas and concerns. You particularly, I think this is a maximum one great person can do when he deals with post-colonial Arabic literature, especially the great literary figures like Mahmoud Darwish and Osman Kanafani. The area is that much wide, but we have to confine here only. That's all. Thank you very much once again on behalf of this department too and college. Now let us have some few minutes to discuss over the topic. I mean, people can inquire and we have brief discussion over the topic. Please come upon who are interested. After that, we will move to feedback session. Okay. If anybody has any inquiry, please come. Actually, when we combined and WhatsApp group, that time many people were inquiring about the details regarding this webinar, and all were engaged in different debates too. So I expect some kind of comments over this presentation and topic. I think the people got convinced enough because of the kind of presentation Professor Zain had here. I thanks once more, Professor Zain. If people are not reacting right now, let us move to feedback. Then if anybody has other comments, we will receive it. Okay. So let us, people get interacted when we go through feedback session. Yeah.
വളഞ്ചേരി അല്ല അവിടുത്തെ അധ്യാപകനാണ് അതിന്റെ അധ്യക്ഷന.
Okay. Let me invite. Okay. Please let me invite Dr. Sayyid Nasrullah Bakhtiyari, the New College, Chennai, India, to have his feedback over this program and presentation. Please come up, sir. I think he missed the signal or something like that. I'm not getting him. Anyway, let us move to next one. Dr. Hazim Ani Altamis من السيادة الأستاذ دكتور هازم محمد لإلقاء بعض الملاحظات حول هذا البرنامج. فليتفضل مشكورا الأستاذ. نعم. الو تفضل حبيبي أستاذ دكتور حازم. معنا دكتور حازم. دكتور حازم لو سمحت. عفوا لا أدري ما هي المشكلة. بالنسبة إلى الأستاذ دكتور حازم ف يعني ندخل إلى الشخص التالي. يعني I may request Miss Professor Fatima, Istanbul University, Turkey, to have brief comments on the program. Please, madam. Hello, sir. Yes. Very sorry, we are not getting them all. Finally, we have to return. We have to deal with Bangladesh, presenting by Abdullah Muhammad Najib. Professor Abdullah Mahmoud Najib with us. Please come, sir.
Thank you so much. The session was really very informative and insightful. As a student of Arabic literature, I was so excited to learn about Palestinian literature, an overview of each treasure in post-colonial era. And Alhamdulillah, this webinar made me fulfill my thirst. It was my pleasure to be a student of Dr. Zain Askalan for a while during my Kuala Lumpur tour last year. And I discovered a new dervish through her valuable reflection. And she is really amazing and interactive teacher. I'm so grateful to her. And today she made me amazed again, made me realize how close is Darwish to our heart, how the Palestinian literature is relevant to any discussion focused on resistance and fight for rights and freedom. Thanks to the organizers, especially Dr. Riyaz, thanks to Dr. Zain Askalan, thanks to all audience. Please take love from Bangladesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah Mahmoud Najib, for your highly impressive remarks. I may request all the participants, whoever interested, to have comments on. Please come. Any participant who are interested to have. I think Pranab may be interested.
Yes, sir. Hello. Sir, my question to Madam, sir.
Please. Okay, please. I think your voice is not audible, please. Okay, anyone else, please? Anyone else, please?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Walaikum salam.
Dr. Riyaz, I'm Yunus Nalim from Kulliyat Salam Arabic College. Can you hear me?
It's okay. Audible, please.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the team who conducted this seminar, especially in this topic. And it's really interesting and informative. And I would like to congratulate the President Askalan, who presented it very well. And we have got a lot of information regarding this. And I would like to ask some queries regarding. We heard about Mahmoud Darwish, Hassan Karfani, and other poets. But my question is right now, who are the eminent poets who is writing poetry and who are engaged in literary activities right now in Palestine. Can you give me a brief explanation regarding this?
Okay, Professor Zain, may I respond, please? Okay.
Yes, sure. So thank you so much for your question. Of course, Palestine is full of great writers and poets. So, for example, if you refer to Tamim al-Barghouthi, he is one of the dominant writers in the meantime. Tamim al-Barghouthi wrote many valuable poems like Fil Quds, and it is a great one. It represents let's say, the sorrow of Palestinians. And also he wrote about the daily life of Palestinians in some other poems. So also if you want to refer to writers, you can refer to Ibtisam Barakat. She is Palestinian-American. Ibtisam wrote 2 main books. Actually, they are autobiography. So one of them is called and also there is another one. She's talking about her experience when she used to live in Palestine. She was a student in Birzeit University and how she was laid on one of the checkpoints created by or established by the Israeli occupation. And also you can refer to Sudan Abu Hawa. Sudan Abu Hawa, she's also a Palestinian American writer. She wrote Mornings in Jenin, and she wrote Blue Between Sky and Water. Blue Between Sky and Water and Mornings in Jenin both are translated to different languages. You can find them in English. You can write them. Now, in her Blue Between Sky and Water, you can see that she wrote about the immigration and how they become refugees upon the Nakba. And she also talked about the daily life of people who used to live in Gaza Strip. So she's originally from there, and she talks about her ancestors, how they migrated from Beit Darras, a village in Gaza. I really recommend that book if you want to read it. So, Blue Sky and Water. We have much more writers. Every day, Palestine produces new writers for poetry and also for prose.
شكرا زين. السلام لله ذرك، وأقدم شكري وامتناني لك ولمن يعمل وراء هذه الورشة. شكرا لكم.
Well, now I may request Dr. Sayyid Nasrullah to have remarks on the program and presentation. Right, please come.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is my voice clear to you, sir?
Yes.
Is my voice clear?
Yeah, clear. Please, sir.
Okay. I wholeheartedly believe that this webinar has served the design and the purpose. It seems to me that the topic of the webinar has created an intellectual awakening in the minds of the participants. Professor Zain Asqalan has beautifully presented and highlighted the core aspects of post-colonial Arabic literature with the focus on Palestinian literature as a model. The webinar has given me a new insight to the topic, and I feel immense pleasure for being a part of it. It has created new sensibilities in me. Some of the topics that I focused while I was keenly observing the lecture which was given by Professor Zain Asqalan. The topics dealing with identity crisis, existential issues, the concept of life and death in life, apart from the feelings of exile, love, loss of homeland, oppression, discrimination, in the background of Islamic values and tradition were dealt with brilliance. Even the description of the war, the Palestinians, the PowerPoint presentation was highly impressive, and it was a kind of a very moving type of a presentation. And moreover, the point has been made very clear by the resource person that the Palestinians, they wish to explain their identity, their style of life to the world. So I think here it's better I conclude. I also here I feel that I conclude, and I thank Dr. Riaz, who has been the major instrumental person in organizing this webinar, principal, the other management staffs, and one other resource person, and Muhammad Shafi. And if I have missed somebody's name, please excuse me. I thank you all for organizing such a good thing. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable comments and remarks. I may request Mr. Adam to deliver vote of thanks. Please come, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope I'm visual and audible to all.
Yeah, you are audible, please.
Yes. First and foremost, I must thank each and every one, of course, accepting our invitations and being part of this beautiful webinar session today has brought us so much joy and happiness. We thank you very much. I would like to extend my profound gratitude to the astute scholar, Professor Dr. Zain Askalan, for taking her precious time to share her knowledge with us today. We hope not to be deprived the benefit from it, and I'm so glad that everybody, at least from the feedback, she has done justice and created a kind of a sensitive among the audience, and he has done justice to the topic. I really commend her. Thank you very much, ma'am. And may we again increase in knowledge and understanding and wisdom from her, beautiful lecture delivered. I also thank the inaugural persons, Mr. Kasim, which is the coordinator, academic enhancement program, IT East and Southeast Asian Office, Malaysia. I will also take this opportunity to especially thank our principal, Professor Dr. C. Rajesh, and for giving us the opportunity to organize this webinar, and the head of the Arabic language department of MES KVM College, Professor Dr. Muhammad Riaz, being the mastermind of this webinar. I really thank him very much. And to our beloved teachers and other prominent and distinguished scholars attending this webinar section, I really thank you for being part of this webinar today. Also, I thank all those who are behind the success of this great webinar section, especially the technical wing that works so hard within the available few days to make it possible in this grand style. I wish you best of luck, good health, happiness, and prosperity, and stay blessed and enjoy the rest of your day. We love you all. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. Mr. Adam is our psychology student, Department of Psychology from Nigeria. And we finish here, we conclude here with pleasure. Very good evening to all, especially our guests, Professor Zain Askalan and Kasim. Thank you very much. Okay. See you. Bye.